Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lauren Meeker, and I am Opera San Antonio's General and Artistic Director. And I am back after what feels to me like a much too long hiatus to rejoin Beyond the Production. And of course, I am always absolutely thrilled when my partner in crime, Francesco Miliotto, OSA's music director, joins us. So I'm going to add him in right now. Yay, Francesco!
How are you, Lauren? It's been so long.
Apparently, I'm absolutely well.
100%.
So welcome, everyone, whether you're joining us live right now or watching this interview after the fact. You're joining us with Opera San Antonio's bi-weekly interview series called Beyond the Production. And it's an opportunity for us to take our artists off the stage, or in today's case, outside of the film, and introduce them to you in your homes to share some of their experiences with you. So we are absolutely thrilled to be able to have an extraordinary group of artists joining us today. I've been in Houston for the last month working on two projects. The first of which is a film version of Vinkensport, or the Finch Opera, which premieres tonight. And so in light of that, today we decided that it would be an amazing opportunity to gather as many members of the cast and creative team as we possibly could to have a chat with everyone today about the film that releases this evening. So I will present everyone with more information on how to watch the film by the end of this interview. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and start adding in some of our guests who, as I know, we are all extraordinarily excited to meet today. So here is the amazing and talented Royce Favrick.
Hello.
Hi, Royce. How are you?
And a surprise guest, David Little. Okay.
There he is.
Yeah. Yay. So for anybody who's wondering, one of the gifts of being able to produce a new opera or a contemporary opera is having amazing artists like the composer and librettist with you for the ride. So gentlemen, I will dig into, I know David's got a limited amount of time, so I'll dig into everything with you in just a moment as I continue to add people in. In the land of film opportunities, my partner in crime on this one has also been this amazing gentleman, Ryan Mckinney. Hi, Ryan.
Hey. Nice to see you.
Ryan is playing Atticus Finch's trainer in the film, but important to my heart, he is also the co-director and mastermind behind Vinkensport. So welcome, Ryan. We're so thrilled you could join us today.
Super happy to be here. Thanks.
So then we would be slowly rowing a boat to nowhere if we didn't have an amazing human being to help keep us all on track musically. And that amazing human being is Mr. Timothy Myers. Hi, Tim.
Hi, everybody. Hi, friends.
How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Really glad to be here with all of you.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to join in other folks that we have here with the cast, and I think we will all be able to stay in the stream together. If not, I'll do some juggling around. But here we have, drum roll please, the amazing Nicole Houston, who is playing John's trainer. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I am so good.
All right. She is good. Wait till you see her tonight.
Oh
okay.
God.
Here is the amazing Ricardo Garcia. Did I say your name okay, Ricky?
Oh, it's perfect. It's
okay,
wonderful.
I worked really hard on that. Ricky is playing Hans Sachs's trainer. Welcome, Ricky.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Here is Elena Villon. Did I say that right, Elena?
You got it.
I think she's lying to me, but I tried. You are playing Farinelli's trainer. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. And we've got, did Kelly just join or did Kelly go away? Kelly just disappeared on me, but I will also bring Kelly back into the stream. Kelly is playing, I think, the most complicated trainer's name, Prince Gabriel III of Belgium's trainer's son. long,
Good
long
job.
and I love
Good job.
every inch of it. Kelly's having some technical difficulties, but I'm sure he'll join us in just a moment. So welcome, gang. I think we have one other member of our party that I just want to give a special shout out to. Alicia Gianni is also part of the cast. She is doing some amazing teaching this afternoon and wasn't able to join us for the live broadcast, but she's with us here in spirit. Okay, Kelly's back. Let's see if I can grab him and get him in. Yay!
There he is.
Kelly's all here. Okay, so welcome, everyone. This is our fabulous team for Vinkensport, and we couldn't be more excited to dive in with all of you today. So, Francesco,
Yes.
the thing to do is to make you start with the awesome question.
Yes, I think so, because me not being involved in this at all, I really have a great, and I'm so appreciative to David for being here. I know your time is limited, so I'd like to ask you and Royce about the origins of the opera, how it came together, with the college and all, and anything that you want to share to shed some light on that. We would really love to know how all of this came together and what that creative process between the two of you is, because we know throughout history it's just such an important collaboration that I think we'd love to know a little bit more about that. So if we could start with maybe Royce would be great, and then Maestro, if you could too, that would be great.
Maestro. Ooh.
Maestro, there you go. I mean,
Whoa, I like this room.
I'm just on the phone with so many Italians. They're all Maestro. I'm sorry. Anyone that writes a note is a Maestro. Got it.
Right.
Well, this project really started with an opportunity that was offered David from Don Upshaw at the Bard Conservatory to write a one-act opera that would be on a triple bill with Song from the Uproar by Missy Mazzoli, which I ended up coming on board that project after that, but at the time it was just Missy, and L'Enfant. And so we had a very short time to compose. I think we got the offer in mid-fall of 2009.
Like October.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
And it premiered in February following.
Wow.
And so we took a couple weeks where we sort of fell down the rabbit hole of looking for stories. And Dawn also gave us the 6 voice types that we had to find a story that actually utilized the complement of singers that she offered. And so after sort of spitballing probably 60 different ideas, we sort of had to figure out what we were going to do because time was running out. And initially, David was very reluctant to write an opera about finches. But he came around.
I did. Well, and I should say at this point, we had already written about 25 minutes of Dog Days, which we then went on to complete together after Vinkensport. So Vinkensport was in the middle of completing writing Dog Days. And I think part of at least for me, I think Royce, this is true for you too, part of this project for us was an opportunity to explore something a little lighter than Dog Days. If anybody knows, Dog Days is a very kind of heavy, serious piece. But I think that was also part of my reluctance, like coming out of Dog Days and then talking about Finch sitting. I was like, the cognitive dissonance was just really extreme for me.
Right.
And if I recall, it was maybe one of the first ideas that Royce pitched in our discussions. And I was like, no, what else? Well, and we went through like 20 other ideas. And at the end of that, I was like, that Finch idea was kind of fun. What about that? And then we were off. And the writing process was sort of unique and not like anything we've experienced before or since, which is that I was in Australia meeting my future in-laws for the first time. And I was in Australia for 5 weeks. And Royce was home in Alberta. And so we were having these crazy odd hour Skype calls trying to figure out, what this piece was. I think I would get a scene in my morning and write throughout the day and send it to him. It was a very sort of like, 100% all in kind of situation, but really fun.
Fabulous. Royce, am I hearing that you're Canadian?
Yeah. Proudly so.
All right. There was the reason I knew I liked you at the very beginning of this whole conversation.
It's interesting. My career has been entirely American, and only now am I teetering back into Canada. But I'm Canadian, but I feel very New Yorker.
Me too. So can I ask just one question before we go on? So is it that like you sent the libretto first and then David, you would write music and then you would exchange it back and forth? Or was there music, like, was it so fast that you had to write and then adapt and cut and do, like, I'm just thinking millions of letters between Puccini and anyone, you know what I mean? Something like that. What was the back and forth between you like to get this done so quickly?
I think it was pretty active, right, Royce? I mean, I don't think there was a completed libretto before I started composing. In other words,
I think there was.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I do think.
I don't
There might have
remember.
been like one aria that we wrote beforehand so that you could get started or something. But I think that there, yeah, I do think that it was pretty much there was a draft of something.
Okay, cool.
I could be wrong. It's a lot. Yeah, it's
10 years ago now.
Yeah, but it was pretty, because we have telephones and Skype and FaceTime. It's a lot easier. So as opposed to sort of cramming your thoughts into letters that the composer is going to receive a week later, maybe. We get to, and we talk a lot about scenes at the very top so that we are on the same page as to what the quality of the moment is. So there's a lot of stuff as opposed to, there's tinkering that goes on later, but a lot of that stuff is done before notes are put to words, because we just want to make sure that we're dramatically on the same page, since we're both dramatists, we're equal dramatists.
And the dramaturgical impulse is what kind of launches us into a scene, so we kind of know what we're playing with from the top.
Exactly. And that for me is like this a super interesting question for somebody like me. How do you decide like the dramatic pacing of the text, the actual dramatic pacing of that? Like, would you say, Royce, like, no, man, you can't have a long note on this thing right here. That doesn't work for me. I can't. You know what I mean? Like, how did that, like the actual timing of the text, you guys are so close and tight knit for the work. Was that part of the process, or was it just free for David to write as he wished?
It was, it's free for David to write as he wishes, but then you're held accountable to the drama. And so there are moments where you're like, oh, if we adjust this either through adjust the music or adjust the text, we can get a bigger laugh, or it lands better, or so. Yeah, but David is such a ferocious dramatist that his instincts are really unbelievable. So there were very few, and like every project has its own little hurdles that you have to jump over, and its own intrinsic problems to solve. And this one was tough because it is a comedy, and you did it 10 years ago, and I think that we were sort of fearless at the time, but it does seem like a pretty crazy thing to write jokes into music.
It's scary for sure. Although I will say I think that we had a tight timeline on it. For me, at least, helped that process, because I didn't have any time to second guess anything. I would sort of wake up in the morning and write part of a scene, and that basically was mostly what it stayed. I mean, there were changes, but it was really just such a fast and furious process that I didn't have a chance to say, is this too silly, for example? And I think the piece is stronger for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I encountered the piece, what was it, 3 years ago, I think we've decided, David and Royce. I'm a constant collaborator with Boston University, which is my alma mater, and they've had me back to direct several times. And they said, here's this piece, Vinkensport, come do it for our studio festival. And that was when I met David and was first introduced to the piece, and, fell in love with it right away, and had a great time directing it. And then just all of a sudden, it sort of came back to me this spring as something that was fabulous and fun to produce in a whole new way, with much greater connection to community now, thanks to the world that we're living in 2020. So one of the first people that I grabbed a phone call with was Ryan, because in May, when I was looking at what artists were doing or what companies were doing and how the digital frontier was being pushed, Ryan was one of only like a handful of artists at that time. There's more now I was able to follow and watch his work, and Ryan was really starting to push the digital edge. And I had just worked with Ryan on Giovanni at Washington National. And I have to say, Ryan, I sent you the email or picked up the phone or whatever I did, and I was like, I don't know if he's going to bite at this, but let's see. And like, here we are. So Ryan, do you want to tell your side of that story a little bit?
I mean, I think that for whatever reason, you and I, well, first of all, during Giovanni, we got along really well. Well, we've known each other forever, and probably not everyone knows that, but we started working together at HGO, like, what did we decide, 2004 or something insane like that?
Something like that.
I don't know, a long time ago. Anyway, and then we worked really well together in Giovanni in a way that was sort of, collaborative, even though I was the singer and you're the director. And then, so when you brought this up with me, and I had sort of already been working on a few like opera as film projects, which is something that's interested me for a long time, and it particularly became important, once we couldn't have live performances. At the moment, I was kind of just saying yes to everything. And I was like, sure, we could make that work. But I didn't really like, in the immediacy of our conversation, like think about exactly what that would mean. And then as I dug into the score and the libretto, I was like, wow, this could really be fun. And also it just like perfectly lends itself to the film medium, I think. The structure of it, like the way we set it up is that there's these sort of interviews, which of course, like everyone brings up Christopher Guest mockumentaries, which I think is a helpful way to explain it to people, although it's a lot more than that. So we have these kind of interviews happening with everybody. And then I think maybe I had the initial thought of, David has this amazing kind of emotional storytelling between these moments that says a lot about what's happening in a way that you don't necessarily get just from watching somebody sing. And we have these kind of B-roll scenes that tell an entirely different story. And so we initially were like, well, I don't know if anybody wants to do this, but this sounds cool. So I think Lauren called David and Royce and was like, hey, do you want to produce this with us? And my wife, Tanya Mckinney, and I had been doing things together. So we were kind of like a team of 5 of us. And Tanya and I made this little like clip of the Atticus Finch's Trainer's final aria, which you could sort of just see how it would work from that, even though it was kind of quickly tossed together and it was just us. But then, of course, like the amazing revelation was like this entire cast, and creative team along with Tim, that we had discussions early on, and we were like, well, I don't know, like, if we do it with an opera company, will we get any choices on like who sings these roles? And like for whatever reason, we got super lucky and had like some really incredible people who like all of them dove right into the new medium, even though they had no idea what we were asking for, because like they couldn't see what anyone else was doing, and like we're in this crazy situation. And so it turned out to be super fun.
So I'm going to bust in for 2 seconds because I know David is a hot commodity today and he has to jump off to another meeting. So David, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. You guys are so amazing. I love all of you, and I can't wait for tonight's premiere. Thank you so much.
Yay! Thank you.
Soon.
We'll see you soon. So, okay. So I think everybody's big question, Ryan, is always, what is Vinkensport? Actually, I'll pitch this one to Royce and Ryan, because I think you'll have really interesting perspectives on it, not only for the original concept, Royce, but also Ryan for how we conceived it as a film. I know I'm putting you on the hot seat, Royce, but if you were to boil this down into a nugget of awesomeness, how would you describe Vinkensport?
Vinkensport, well, to put it in context, is a folk sport that has been around for over 500 years, or around 500 years. And it is a seemingly arbitrary sport where people have their prized finch in a box, and there is an amount of time that elapses, and a tally is made for how many times the finch sings this phrase called a suscoit. And so what David and I have done is come up with 6 very wild characters who are all competing for various reasons in this folk sport, and we get to experience their inner lives. And it's really an examination of our competitive spirit and what it means to, I feel like we are inundated by competitions, especially as Americans. And we're in the middle of a very important contest right now. And it seemed like a really exciting way to create really, really vivid characters in ways that it seemed like we could do something of this sort in the amount of time that we had to write it. And it just turned out that it became this really beautiful, weird, operatic thing. So yes, come. Is that a delicious?
Yeah, and I have to say our cast makes it beautiful and weird in all new and exciting ways. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think that the best in show thing is really important, because we do want to delight people with this. This is a comedy. It has some heart. It has a lot of heart, but we really hope that we delight everybody who watches the show. That's the number one thing.
That was the one thing I was going to say too, is like, it's so, I mean, the sport itself, to a person who doesn't know anything about it, is so absurd. It's just a ridiculous concept. It's not to the people who are very serious about it, but it sort of it makes this canvas available to dive into these weird people's lives. And what's amazing about the piece, and I think comes through really well in the film, is like this hysterical kind of through line, but then that veers off into these really beautiful, heartfelt moments, kind of without letting you catch your breath first. And it's a really, I mean, I just love it for that. It's kind of like the way that, you know, Mozart does that, like in the Da Ponte operas, that it just really easily goes back and forth between super meaningful and really funny.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, I have another question, musical. Thank goodness Lauren lets me do all these. To Maestro Myers. This is absolutely not like a normal set of rehearsals and, or, you know, all of the things that we are absolutely used to. But if you could just talk a little bit about what it was like putting this piece together in this context and working with the singers this way and laying down the orchestra tracks and working off of the tracks with earbuds and everything like that. If you could just take us through a little bit of what that process was, I think everybody would find that super interesting.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how it all happened. But, no, it's interesting. I felt like it was a project that for the first time in my career kind of used a lot of different things I've done. I've had involvement with film before. I've done a lot of studio recording. I've obviously, you know, conducted a lot of live performances, but this was really a combination of all those different avenues of getting there. And so from a logistical standpoint, I came to Houston and then we had a couple days of rehearsal with the singers. And fortunately, I had worked with everyone. It was my first time with Nicole, but everyone else I had worked with at least once. So I was able to really hit the ground running as far as knowing the voices, kind of how to get into things. And I would say the trickiest part about it was that we rehearsed for a couple of days with the singers. We had one rehearsal with them all together. And in that rehearsal, everyone was behind barriers, you know, screens. And so it was a really interesting thing. I mean, HGO's COVID protocols were excellent. And they really took excellent care of all of us. But everybody just came to bat and we did it. And in the first 2 days, I was just trying to really get a feel for the piece and learn what tempi people would need. Because then I had to go away for 3 days and record the orchestra. Entirely separately. And that was also a really interesting experience because everyone was distanced and depending on what instrument they're playing and this or that, how, you know, like the flute player is often, you know, left field, out there. And so that was really interesting. And we had, you know, it was a pretty compressed time frame. And so we were really trying to rehearse and then capture it and it was tricky to keep kind of a global feel in mind of how the piece was going to actually pace and work. Because normally, you know, as you know, I mean, we would rehearse the orchestra separately and then we would put it all together. And that was the step that was missing, is the next time this all went together was one by one on set with playback. And so what you don't see in the film is all the actors or the singers are wearing an earpiece where they're hearing the orchestra. Everyone else is wearing headphones, so we hear playback. So it was a really interesting process of recording the orchestra. We did all the orchestra editing, then really getting the two things to collide in a way that really worked. And I'm still absolutely amazed at how smoothly it came together, especially in some of the ensemble stuff. It really, I'm not sure. Everybody just did as well as they knew how to do their job. And we just did it. So I'm really pleased with how it turned out.
A shout out to Ryan Edwards, who helped us so much with sound and merging all of that into the musical vocabulary that everybody will hear tonight. It's really an incredible feat.
I just wanted to add, because people might not realize that we made a choice early on not to lip sync. And I know that in these kind of things, often that's what you see. That's not what you'll see tonight. Everything that you are watching somebody sing is happening in real time in front of the camera. Because Lauren and Tim and I agreed that the expression that comes from the immediacy of somebody that's in the character performing is so much more important than like having a perfect sound all the time. Although with this cast, I mean, myself excluded, all sound perfect all the time.
You included, yeah.
I think included, yes.
Mea culpa.
Yeah.
Everybody else, actually, none of it is lip sync.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah. And the other thing, Francesco, I would just plug in there that was so amazing was this is the first time anybody had done anything together in months.
Right.
Right. So this was the first time any members of the HGO orchestra had played with anyone else for 7 months or something. And so it was a really, I mean, although there were challenges that we're not used to encountering,
right,
it was a really special experience. I think just to be in the room with singers and to be in the room with an orchestra was really, it was a real gift.
One last question. Were you conducting while the scenes were being videotaped based on what you were hearing, or was it just straight audio and go? Or were you in there conducting with them on tape at the same time?
Yeah, so I was on set, and it's interesting from the front angle.
Right.
I was just to the left of that camera.
Okay.
And so when you see them looking at an interviewer, they're looking at me. And so
the interviewers. Always.
But there were exactly. But there were interesting times. You'll get this as a conductor where we would be doing playback, and then I would start to conduct a line. I would be like, I don't know why there's nothing to conduct here. It's already done.
It's already, yeah.
So I did on set actually a lot more kind of prompting and cueing, just like to help with entrances and length of notes, like really just pragmatic things to help them stay focused on the character and on capturing what we needed to in the shot.
Excellent.
So that, it took me about an hour to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting part of the whole process of piecing it together and being flexible and having the experience in all the other avenues of conducting. I think it's just incredible that you were able to put it together and be helpful on the side of the camera. I mean,
and the first time I've ever conducted lying down.
There you go.
Oh yeah, we waited for that too.
What?
Well, because when everybody, you'll see when you see the film, like when everybody's looking down at the Finch box, right? There's a camera in there. Right. There were times where we needed some real direct contact. So
wow.
I think Lauren has a good picture of that.
I do. There you go. Back up and repost it.
Yeah.
So Royce, let's meet some of these fabulous characters that you brought to life for us through our actor's eyes. Nicole, who is Sir Elton John's trainer?
My favorite. Sir Elton John's trainer is, I affectionately named her Mimi, Van Brosten, which is, of the breast, because she is a woman who lives in the excess. She is wealthy. Her husband is the person who is sponsoring this event. And she likes to drink just a little. And she also enjoys in other libations and things. She's commonly known as a slut at the competition. So for me, she was super fun.
And now, if we can get down, we have to get down to Kelly. Can you tell us a little bit about your character as well and who you play?
Oh, Kelly's muted. Hang on, Kelly. Try again, Kelly. No, still muted. Take two. There you go, Kelly.
There you go.
Okay.
There we go.
So my character actually is a bit less outlandish, I'd say, than the rest of the characters in the show. A bit more of a straight man, so to speak, in terms of the context of the characters. And he has a really hard time being involved in the competition because he's recently lost his father and is very resentful of his father. Because his dad only paid attention to the birds and basically didn't pay attention to him, but has this really conflicted nature moving into the competition because he feels like he's picking up the baton and trying to carry on his father's legacy, even though he absolutely despises the sport and despised his father. So,
but you have the most interesting name out of anyone.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about your character? Oh, hang on. Muted, Ryan.
Sorry, I'm also trying to be helpful. I play Atticus Finch's trainer, and he's probably the most sort of traditional Finch sitter of the group. He sort of takes it seriously. It's, good Flemish tradition, and he's kind of rough and like a little bit, a little bit of a misogynist. Like he's kind of just a sort of old school, like who you imagine, this sort of like, we don't want women in our sport kind of guy. But he's sort of, he's the one that I think loves it the most, maybe, and has kind of been in it the longest. And you see by the end, it's sort of, he kind of breaks open and you get to really learn about him in a way that can be pretty moving. So he's a pretty interesting guy.
Fabulous. And Elena, can you tell, you are Farinelli's trainer?
Yes,
can you tell us
yes.
a little bit about your character too?
Yeah, Farinelli's trainer. She is your classic combo cat lady and hoarder situation, and really have much of her life together. I don't want to divulge too much before Vinkensport airs, but she's obsessed with winning, and she thinks that she can get away with cheating the game, which doesn't work out in her favor, as you'll see. But just picture your friendly neighbor, cat lady, and hoarder, and you'll see that's what you'll see at 7:30 tonight.
And Ricky, how about you?
My character that I played was Han Sok's trainer. So Han Sok's trainer is has an addiction, to put it mildly, to cocaine. So all of his actions and everything that is involved with him trying to win this kind of like event of Finch sitting is to support his addiction, which ends up making him do pretty hilarious things in the process. So it really it really put me in a spot to really act on impulses when I was in the process of rehearsing with y'all, with Lauren and Ryan, especially in the rehearsal room. So yeah, that's I don't want to, like I said with Elena, what she said, I don't want to divulge too much, but that's pretty much
awesome. Now, Royce, all of these characters have the most interesting names. So can you please just tell us how all of Sir Elton John, Han Sachs, who we know, like Atticus, can you please just shed a little bit of light onto where you got the idea for all of these names?
Yeah. The names were some of the first things that came. So they sort of came to define the characters in some way. It seemed like Nicole's character needed to be Elton John or some sort of like gay legendary icon who was fabulous, or yeah, it just made sense. And then I love St. Francis. He's one of my favorite saints. So I thought if we were going to have a religious woman, that seemed like a direction to go. Atticus Finch, I believe, was David's wife, who was like, well, you have to have a character named Atticus Finch. So a curmudgeonly older man, that seems, that's not what Atticus Finch is. Atticus, yes, in the book, but he's in our version, he's extremely curmudgeonly and lonely. And Han Sachs was just something that David knew that he wanted to quote that somewhere in the opera. So that made total sense. And then I did some research as to like former monarchs, I believe, in Belgium. And there was a lineage of Gabriels. So I thought, yeah. And am I missing any one?
No, I mean, yeah, it's St. Francis. We got, yeah.
Farinelli? Did we talk about
Farinelli?
Farinelli made sense.
Made sense.
That absolutely makes sense.
Does everyone know who Farinelli is? Maybe we should, because like non-opera people might not know.
I'll bet Farinelli and Han Sachs are the two that could use more description for us, Royce.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think Tim should take Han Sachs.
We could just throw all of us under the bus on that one.
Yeah. Also, well, Farinelli was a very famous castrato.
Italian castrato.
So yeah, so
That means that
Francesco, I'm sure.
Oh, I know. Film reading, love it.
And Hans Sachs is a character in the Meistersinger von Nürnberg of Wagner, and which is amazing because there's an incredible quote from Meistersinger towards the end of the piece that is integrated seamlessly and comes just at the right time and in the right fashion. So it makes sense. One other little funny thing though is it's Prince Gabriel, but when I started learning the score, I sort of looked at the list of characters, and then I jumped into the score and I started learning it. And so there was Elton John there, and then there was it in the score just said P. Gab. And so I literally learned it just thinking it was Peter Gabriel. I was like, oh, it makes sense. Like another British rocker,
There you go.
That's amazing.
The next person, Pip, and Vinkensport
Exactly.
returns.
The reunion tour, yeah.
Well, listen, I would love to show the trailer to everyone. And Kelly. Oh, wait. Oh, Kelly's saying goodbye because he had to jump off. Kelly just left because he's got a busy household this afternoon as well. So we love you, Kelly. We'll see you tonight.
Bye, Kelly.
I'm going to show the Vinkensport trailer because I think not only does that show the direction that the film is headed in, but I think that's going to give us the next round of conversation, which is food for thought. I'm interested in the cast explaining, and Ryan, a little bit more about how we actually made this come to life and what the rehearsal process was like. And it was just so unique, I think, to this particular film. So let's take a look, and then we'll be right back after the trailer.
Tick, 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 tally, tick, 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 tally, tick, tick, tally, tally, tick, tally, tick, 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 tick. Tally, tick, 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 tally, tick, tick, tally, tally, tick, tally, tick. Vinkensport. 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 Tick, 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 tally, tick, 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 tally, tick, 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 tally, tally, tick, tally, tick. Tick, 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 tally, tick, 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 tally, tick, 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 tally, tally, tick, tally, tick, 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 tally, tick, 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 tally, tick, tick, tally, tally, tick, tally, tick. Vinkensport.
Oh my God, you all just
Wow.
really cracked me up, I have to say. I have to say. So I would love to start by actually turning to our cast members, and Nicole or Ricky or Elena, any of you are welcome to field this. I'm not sure everybody knows what a normal rehearsal process looks like, but I think we could safely say that usually on a show like this, we'd be in a room rehearsing, and all of us would be together during the ensemble scenes. But as Tim mentioned, we sort of only did that on the first day, and maybe for some folks on location the very last day, but otherwise this was completely independent, plus all of the health and safety protocols that we were following. What was that like as an experience, y'all, to be able to sing in masks and have screens in front of you and go through those protocols?
I'll jump in first. Cool. It was a little strange, but I'm all about strange. I'm all about trying something new.
I saw in that clip.
Yeah. I think the weirdest part was that, usually when you're doing an opera, there's a good solid 3 weeks of rehearsal and you're getting to know your colleagues. And I mean, I heard everyone through a screen and mask on the first day and then never saw them again. But what was really cool though, is that, I got a chance to, we all had our little singer's mask on, which, gave us a little space so we could actually sing. But it was hard, I'm sure, for you guys to know our intentions because the majority of our face was covered up. You didn't get a chance to see what we were actually kind of really doing under that until we finally took our masks off and we were ready to capture. But I think the weirdest part was just, having the recording of the orchestra and really having to just really say, okay, this is what it is. It isn't like, oh, well, I want to hold this note a little longer today. That was not an option. So it was really cool and just so much fun and interesting. I mean, I had spent a lot of the summer making videos with recordings in my ear, so I was used to that. So that was fun. But I think what I missed the most was the interaction between us. But what's so cool is like, even looking at the looking at the trailer, that interaction is still there, even though we weren't in the same room. So I think it was totally cool. And just, you got to be innovative.
Cool. Alan Savada, who I know many of us know and who is a constant with us watching Beyond the Production, just responded to the trailer and said, brilliantly hysterical. Thank you, Alan. Wait till you see the whole thing. We think the whole thing's brilliantly hysterical. Ricky or Elena, talk a little bit about the earbud and adjusting to that, because it's one thing, I think, to have a mask on, but be in the room with a conductor and a pianist. It's an entirely another thing when we stick an orchestra track in your ear. What did that feel like?
Well, I think that for me it was really like, a lot of it was to make sure, and I think that was the one thing that Peter Pastor was the head coach on this.
Shout out to Peter.
Peter's like, Peter. And like I said this in my post earlier, like Peter was like, before this, my musical rock, because it was a thing of, first of all, I didn't even know that Maestro Myers was going to be conducting there, which was like incredible because it took off a lot of pressure off of it. But Peter said to me, I remember the first coaching, he goes, I'm just going to tell you right now that no amount of, Maestro Myers in your face doing this is going to help you if you don't know it to the last 16th note. Yeah. Like, and that was like the thing that really ended up freeing me to do what, Lauren, what you and Ryan wanted me to do in the room, and what ended up making it a lot of fun for me at the end of the day. And I know that, that's said with, all this stuff, but the thing is that this score, at least for me, was extremely fiendishly difficult to learn. And, some of the rhythms were just like, I was banging my head against the wall at like 2 a.m, like just trying to get it in my body. And it wasn't because like, of anything that, Maestro Little was writing or anything like that, but it's just about getting it in your body so then you don't have to think about, what, going like 1, 2, 3, doing that like in the middle of the thing. Cause it's just, there's no point, right? There's no point in doing it. So, and then another thing too, especially having individual sessions of stagings with Maestro Myers and stuff was, I think the one thing that he told me is, that I really fell in love with at that point was, he said something that his mentor told him. He's like, as soon as you start falling in love with beat 2, he's like, you're going to become a great musician. And as soon as you start falling in love with this kind of like feeling of jazziness and really start feeling what the piece is like, as soon as I started doing that, I was golden. Like it was night and day for me. So then when we actually got to filming, it was a wrap. Even though I did have like the earpiece in my ear and stuff like that, all I had to do was look up once in a while to catch Tim, and Tim would just do that. That's all he had to do. So yeah, that was the challenging part of it for me. Not so much having the orchestra there, because I think like Nicole was saying, all of us had been doing some sort of like, little project that was like that at that point. So, with doing orchestra in our ear and filming stuff before I got here to HGO. So that's
cool.
It.
Elena, we had you doing some crazy stuff in general with your character. Is there anything you want to add to that about the uniqueness of the experience, whether it was the rehearsal process or the film process?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess sort of in also answering the previous question, I didn't realize I was the first person to film like that first filming day until I was like 4 hours in. And I didn't know because we have all been filming and rehearsing separately and getting our own individual schedules. So we ended up having to extend my filming day just because like working out the kinks, there were tons of people involved, sound, video, of course, and multiple cameras, and then having to coordinate not just sound like audio, catching audio, but the sound that's coming into my ear and making sure that's not seen. And but in terms of my character and the crazy things I was doing, Unfortunately, it comes a little natural, and
Fortunately, come on.
fortunately for this opera,
There you go.
for this one. But you know, I had a wonderful experience, and I think the hardest part about maybe acting a little bit crazy was letting go of wanting to sound in sort of a sound my best, or sound in a sort of traditional operatic manner sound, I guess. But I really had to just let go and delve into the character, and because at the end of the day, that's more important that comes through than my, you know, my voice. But I had a ton of fun, and you know, Ryan and Lauren and Tim, oh my gosh, all of you guys made the process so incredible and so easy, and like, hats off to you guys. It was so great.
Well, adding on to that, I want to ask, you know, Ryan as well, but also Lauren, the process for the staging and the filming and the bringing all of that together for this particular project is obviously super different than what we do just on stage. Like the repetition of it, the amount of detail that you have from like camera vision to like stage vision is so different. So I mean, if Ryan, you can start, but also, I mean, I want to ask Lauren as well. I think it's important for the two of you to help shed light on what that was like, preparations for it, what it was like, what the process was.
Yeah, I should say actually, Nicole and I and Elena and I had collaborated on some videos early on in kind of the, you know, pandemic, like creative juices that were flowing between sort of March and June. And a lot of the visual style of this piece kind of grew out of what everybody was learning was possible when you were filming separately. So it's, you know, we sort of expanded on, okay, well, how could we tie together visually? If we want to have 6 singers on screen at once, how can we make that have a feeling of being in the same place? Could we interact across screens? Can we, you know, in different ways that could be amusing? And we had done, you know, Elena and I edited this and directed this, you know, Marriage of Figaro scene real early on, and asked her to do all these crazy things that was similar to this, where it's like, you just have to trust me that this is going to make sense later, that what I'm telling you to do might not make sense right now. But I think the bulk of what we kind of laid down, Lauren and I and Tanya had, 4, 5, or 6 sessions of several hours, where we just went through the score detail by detail and really imagined exactly what we wanted to see. And I have to say, it is pretty crazy to me that it looks like what we imagined. Like, for better or worse, this is the show that we thought of, you know, months ago, which was realized by all this amazing group of people. Would you agree with that statement roughly, Lauren?
I would absolutely agree. And I'd also layer in that I think for me, and definitely for you, Ryan, one of the reasons why this particular piece seemed so awesome as a vehicle to create a film version of is because of the material that Royce and David created. So there are things that we can do in the film to capture the lives of these characters that you couldn't do necessarily in the same way on stage. And Ryan, your brain tipped off to that right away, which was, you know, hey, there's all these fabulous sort of backstories that the characters present in each of their individual arias. We can do entire scenes of that in the film and cut it into the competition. And so we're seeing more and sides of these characters than maybe you would in a smaller stage production. And that idea, plus the fact that the sport itself is socially distanced, you know, the characters are sitting 8 feet apart, plus the fact that everybody from the character perspective is longing for some sense of community or some sense of connection with another human being. That just seemed absolutely like the perfect story to tell right now, combined with the perfect film vocabulary. So if I'm not so bold as to say, or maybe I should just be bold, I think we're really, you know, charting new territory with here. It's not a stage captured performance. It was specifically designed and executed as a film. And I think it's really unique and special. So yay team for putting all of that together. It's kind of amazing. Yeah, incredible. Royce, I know you've seen it, but not necessarily everybody else on the film has. Without giving away too many of our fun tricks tonight, what does it feel like for you to see something, one of your pieces, go from a staged version to a film version?
This is so cool. Are you kidding me? And this is the way that I think that we've been talking about doing this beforehand, like, especially thinking that, you know, even if we had a show at the Met and we sold out 6 performances, there's still more potential by virtue of making a movie and hopefully disseminating our ideas to the whole world. And that's what, you know, the Met in HD is so valuable and amazing, that it's reaching these different territories. We have a chance to offer our ideas to every corner of this planet. So I hope that people tune in from all over. And then movies have just been such a huge part of my life. My undergraduate degree was in filmmaking. And I've been very lucky to adapt a few of my favorite films. And so any time that I get to collaborate in movies is amazing. This is so cool. And then to get to work with all of you, and Ryan and Lauren, you guys have just been the most amazing collaborators over these past few months, getting this all set up. So I hope this is the first of like 400 movies that we get to make together.
I think everybody on this call, so to speak, would probably agree with that. We hope this is the first of many, many new and innovative opportunities to come. And, you know, it's hard to talk about a silver lining during a pandemic, but if, you know, things like this project are what help push us all forward as an art form, as artists, sign me up. I'm on board. I'm totally there. So I think we're coming close to our time. So before I let everybody go, I want to make sure we all know how to be able to actually watch this thing. So first things first, team. Let me do a little schedule of events with all of us who are on this call and for everybody who's viewing today. So this Beyond the Production will stay active on both the Opera San Antonio and the Houston Grand Opera YouTube and Facebook pages. So share with your friends, forward this on to them, spread the good word. Then later tonight, starting at 7 o'clock on the Opera San Antonio Facebook page and on the Houston Grand Opera Facebook page, there will be a watch party that'll start at 7 and introduce us in even more depth to the film and the history of some of the source material, like Flemish finch sitting and other bird sports, which oddly seem to abound in Flanders. So we've got some tidbits that we'll unveil tonight during the watch party. Again, that's from 7 to 7:30 on Opera San Antonio and Houston Grand Opera's Facebook pages. Then, drum roll, at 7:30 tonight, the film premieres. And you can watch it through 2 different platforms. You can go to Marquee TV, or you can go to Houston Grand Opera's website. In either case, this is the big thing everybody needs to know. You have to create an account in order to watch it. And it is free on either platform, but take some time this afternoon if you can and create that account, and then you can just watch and go this evening. The show is, Ryan, about 40, 45 minutes long. So it's, I think, a very awesome tidbit to be able to view this evening. And Alan Savada is coming to my rescue and saying, Lauren, be clear, it's Central Time. Thank you, Alan. All of my time zones that I'm listing today are Central Time. So 7 o'clock Central for the watch party, 7:30 for the release of the film itself. And then following the film, if you are a donor to either Opera San Antonio or Houston Grand Opera, you can write us and let us know, and we'll give you an exclusive invite to a post-show event as well. So yay, I feel like I can't thank all of you enough for being with us today. It feels like the closest we're going to get to a premiere or a watch party during COVID. How bizarre is that? Yeah, I'm so used to being in a post-show party where you can toast with a glass of champagne. So consider this my heartfelt thank you to all of you for not only joining us today, but for being such amazing artists during this entire process.
Congratulations, everyone. In bocca lupo for tonight.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Very excited.
We are. So happy opening to everybody. Thank you for watching this afternoon, or if you're watching this after the interview, thanks for checking us out. We'll be back in 2 weeks with our next Beyond the Production. And we look forward to hearing all of your thoughts and feedback and comments on the film this evening. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you all again real soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.